The next one's from Adam R. And the subject is Mind Scramble, more wrestling TV. How's it K100 crew? And he spells how's it HOWZIT, so it's trying to be cool here. So you can just do that.
All right.
You should just keep it in your hand. These things are like, there's been a lot of...
I might have to just keep it.
Yeah, there's been that's like 6 kazoos already. Yeah. Raw, NXT, SmackDown, AEW, Impact, NWA. That's 6 episodes right there. And how many hours? Are you kidding me? How can anyone keep up? Can any of you guys off the top of your heads even name the nights that each of these shows are on? At this point, to me, it's just like, screw it. I'm just going to give up wrestling till football season ends and see if any of it's worth watching. Just too much product that's not much see and too overwhelming to even plan to watch. Deuces. Yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see if the fan base that we have now in professional wrestling, how much time they're willing to give to these shows. Because, like I said, they're adding more stuff for them to watch. I don't know. I think it's a weird time with wrestling, with the flagship show Professional Wrestling doing as poorly as it's done with ratings wise, that networks are reinvesting in wrestling. Fox and TNT are getting back into it. And I'm like, I don't know. That's just interesting to me. That if you look at the numbers, why are they doing that? And maybe it's because, because people get caught in the wrestling bubble and you look at the wrestling numbers, but maybe the numbers that wrestling does are pretty decent, comparatively speaking, for other programming and stuff. Maybe just why they're trying to get into it, So, but it's just like, I'm jaded because, like you, wrestling to me is more, what we grew up on,
right?
And we just don't see that. And you're still in the business, so you still think so. You've had to actually, grow, your thinking through the evolution of this business and the type of wrestlers that we have in the business now. I will say this, though, and I was thinking about this the other day, and over the course of the past 10 to 15 years, and I think this does affect I think it's affected the fan base, and whether we're getting new fans, whether new fans are coming to wrestling, which they're really not. We're kind of losing fans over the course of time. And I'll pose this question to you. And this is a hypothetical that you can visualize in your mind, but you get a pretty good visual picture. All right? And this is me calling out the fans like I always do, and the fans of wrestling today. Let's take a snapshot and visualize a Nitro from 1997 where Bill Goldberg was in the Georgia Dome and then won, or any Nitro from that around that period of time where Goldberg was fighting, to beat Hogan for the championship. And if you watch that show, let's assume there's an arena, okay, and let's call it T-Mobile Arena, okay, and you take a 1997 wrestling crowd, you put it in there with a 1997 show, and you watch the way the crowd reacts to the matches, okay. Then let's do this. Let's take all these fans. The show's over. They all leave T-Mobile Arena. And the next event we're having in T-Mobile Arena is the UFC Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor 2. And all those fans come into the arena, and you watch that card, and you watch the way the fans react. Okay, and then we take the show's over, and you're seeing 2 very similar fan reactions. A lot of rabid fans are really going crazy for the product and stuff. Let's take those fans out. And let's take a 2018, let's hypothetically say NXT TakeOver Chicago was a highly lauded show, we got a good critical review. Let's take those fans, fill the arena up, and watch how those fans react to the product. Okay? 2 of them are very similar, and one of them is absolutely nothing like the other 2. And it's like we've seen the fan base of today that shows up at these shows, bro, they don't react anything like you see in old wrestling shows or real fighting shows. And I think that when people are trying to consume the product or trying to introduce the product, or they're watching it and they're watching the way the fans are reacting, they got to be saying in their heads, why are people acting like this? This is silly. You know what I'm saying? It's I think
the thing is that
with the chants and the things, and there's no real emotion, there's no real oomph from the crowd anymore. They're all they're clapping and shit. It's just weird. It's a very weird reaction if you look at sporting events.
Go ahead. To me, there's 2 reasons. Number one is there's no real cool guys that have been pushed or have come out like a Nature Boy when he used to come out, or a Steve Austin or The Rock or the NWO when they came out. Like, they were cool, they were saying cool shit, and you wanted to fucking, and so they haven't really made anybody like that. And then on top of that, it's hard to get emotion into a match when instead of getting heat, people are doing fucking high spots back and forth trying to get "this is awesome" chants.
Right.
And then you've got a whole fan base that's kind of arty, nerdy, geeky, and I'm not trying to insult them. That's what they are. You know what I'm saying? Where before it was more like a rowdy, like football, like people that went out to football games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I bet you a lot of these wrestling fans don't even go to football games. They're just like playing fucking I went on the cruise. Listen to this. I went on the cruise, that Jericho cruise, right? Mm-hmm. There was this part where they were playing some fucking wrestling card game. I don't even know how you play it, what the fuck it was. I saw so many wrestlers playing with the marks. And I was like, what the fuck am I seeing here? Like, the first time I went there, Sammy Callahan, who and he was there playing with the marks, and Ortiz from LAX was at another table playing with some other marks. All right, can you imagine Harley Race playing some fucking wrestling card game, or Kevin Nash playing a wrestling?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
let me go one step further here.
It's just different. It's just different.
But let me show you how different it is. It's like when we'd go to towns. If there was a hip town, if we were going to Baltimore, one of those cool towns, right? Right. You go to the hotel bar after the show, and like I think we've spoken about this before, but there would always be some cool people there, right, with some hot chicks that like to go to the club. They're like, hey, boy, we'd like to go to hang out with we'd like to go clubbing with these wrestlers. They look like guys that like to go to the clubs, which we were, right. And they would come and they would like, hey, let's go. Hey, you heard about this club? Let's go to this club, right? And the marks, they're marks, but they were like kind of cool marks because they go clubbing with us, right? It's like the marks today want to kind of like go hang out and like be with the wrestlers, and instead of like going to the club with them stuff, they want to ask them their opinion of the Okada Ishii match, and get their take on like it's like it's like the fans are like you said, they're just not cool. There's like a scale of 1 to 100, it's a 0 right now. Maybe they'll call it a 10 because there's some cool guys that try that look good and trendy. When you see them dress, Bro, and I'll tell you what, I honestly think it's just that period of time that we went to in the mid 2000s when we were doing Impact, and a lot of these guys on Impact then are major players on WWE TV now, and it was like they'd go out on TV sometimes, and I remember I was part of the booking back then. Someone I know.
Now let me ask you a question.
But here's the thing. That they'd go out on TV and they would dress like slobs, kind of. And we'd be like, it's kind of that attitude of like, that era of like the indie guys got in wrestling and they didn't really know how to act like stars. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know how to dress like stars. They didn't know how to there's a thing to that. Because there's a magnetic attraction from people when you look at somebody like, when you would see The Rock in the middle of the ring, he had an $800 shirt, $500 pair of slacks, and $300 sunglasses, and he's talking, it's like you can't take your eyes off the guy. You know what I'm saying? When Steve Austin's come out there and he's, he's ball and he's cussing, you can tell he's cussing, as he's talking his way around to kick some motherfucker, it's just like something, the music's playing.
Plus, he was a redneck. You didn't expect him to be well dressed. He was as is. Right. Ric Flair was the man. Ric Flair's got to talk about how rich he is and living, so there's just things like that like literally nobody in the business does that today. Remember Jesse the Body Ventura come out with the boa and he had the fucking cool glasses and you know what I'm saying? He looked like somebody. He acted like he was such a great character. Superstar Billy Graham, Dusty Rhodes, they had this over the top charisma. Even Dusty, you'd see him sometimes really nicely dressed with a hat and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So then WWE went through this little phase a few years ago where like everybody on the shows, like all the wrestlers come out like if you were in an interview segment, everybody had a suit on. It's like that's not the way to do it. It's like now they all look the same and they're all wearing suits. And it's like you just change. It's like it looks like you as a company implemented a dress code, and now all of them are dressing the same. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? So like they did that for a while, and that didn't work. So now they're back. It's like, and now they're all wearing their merchandise on the show. And the t-shirts are atrocious looking. Seth freaking Rollins. I mean, who's gonna like? You see these stuff. So it's just like there's something about that's not there anymore.
Okay, and we need to slowly start integrating that back in. Like you said,
here's what happens too, is that there became a point in society where you would see like even rich guys, they would show up on talk shows and shit and just like a t-shirt and jeans. Like they wanted to be casual and look, I'm cool. I have a lot of money, but I'm not really ostentatious with it, you know? And then it happened in wrestling because you were seeing guys like Samoa Joe just showing up in boxer trunks, CM Punk showing up in, you know what I'm saying? Like the pageantry was out of it. And I always tell people in Mexico, I go, bro, the more you look like a star, the more you're going to be treated like a star, unless you're just some rare guy that can get over. Doesn't matter how you look like or how you dress, but that's like a 1 in a million. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, like I was in today when I was in the when I was going to the airport, there were some wrestlers in the same band that I was in, and this one wrestler was saying that she was talking about another wrestler, and that her mother or dad had said, yeah, you know, she doesn't really care about wrestling. She just wants to be famous. She wants to be the next Beyonce. Well, who the fuck doesn't want to be the next Beyonce? There's only one. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's why I always say stay in your lane, bro. I mean, there's only, you know, one Rock, you know, one fucking Steve Austin. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's good to have aspirations, but there's only one of those. You know, it's like, and it's almost like when you see somebody like, for example, who's like a star right now in Hollywood. That's like, what's that guy from Deadpool?
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. For every Ryan Reynolds, there's probably 2,000 starving artists out there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just very few are gonna make it. You know. Yeah.
Let me give you another little thing I'm thinking about here too. Is that this is a difference that you do see sometimes? Is that back in the day, like the wrestling crowds, right? When they'd pan the audience, you know, they'd pan the audience, and back in the, you'd be shocked. People don't realize the amount of signs at the crowd. Like the fans are trying to get noticed. They're trying to be, they're trying to notice. They're acting crazy. They're like, they're trying to get in front of the camera and act wild and crazy, right? And remember what I told you that match they had recently when they were fighting up, when Becky Lynch and what's her name were fighting up in the crowd?
Yeah.
And it's like, I just thought of this just now because we're talking about the crowd, and I was trying to describe the way that the people were acting. Bro, it's like the crowd, the people in the crowd kind of knew that the camera was on them, and you could see that, like, the people, like I said, the people in the aisles that are right there, they're fighting up the aisles, so the aisle seats, right? You could see people like acting like they were almost embarrassed that they were being seen on TV.
Really?
Instead of like, back in the day, people would be like, they see the crowd, yeah, they'd be like, oh, get him, like they'd be fired up, right?
Yeah.
Now, like they're kind of sitting there with their hands in their pockets, like it's like I said, it is a different crowd of people that come to the shows. And so, I'm just, I'm saying this, and like, if you go back and you look at older tapes, you will see the difference. All right.
Yeah. Right. How about when KG was
yeah. was at the show doing the lucha?
That's great, bro. That is bro.
And he didn't want us to talk about that too. How great is that? He was acting like he knew that he knew it's after he'd done it. That's an embarrassing thing to do.
Right, and he knew we weren't going to let it go. And he was how do I get out of this?
Yeah, because now they're going to know. Now they know I'm a mark.
Right. Right. Now they're pointing it out, and people are going to go look at it. Yeah.
Right. I'm really just smart.
But let me tell you one thing, because this guy, the original question was like, yeah, with all this wrestling, isn't that too much? Yeah, it is too much. But this is what I do. I usually like read online, and if I hear a match is really good or a segment's really good, I'll go look for it. You know what I'm saying? Or like in the case of Raws and SmackDown, when I do watch them, it's the condensed version. I can't sit through anything.
And this is why I tell people. Okay, and this is why I tell every young wrestler, and I think every young wrestler should learn this now with all the TV there's a lot of indie workers that these TV shows are going to need because they're doing TV and they need, there's a limited number of guys to get. And I've always said this, don't go in there with the mindset of everything like, oh, I'm going to have the best match and then that's how I'm going to get over. You go in to a company, and every time you're given something to do, you want to be the guy that does it so well that people are going to say, hey, I heard this was good. Just like Conan said, if you if you have a good backstage segment, try to just really concentrate on killing it. trying to do good, or if it's an interview, just trying to just kill an interview, because what will happen is people will, because there's so much wrestling, there are people like me and Conan that will go watch it, but they won't watch the whole show. Right. So that's how you can learn to stick out, is try to get a big pop and try to do a good promo, try to cut a good promo. That's going to get you noticed more than anything these days, because there's going to be a million wrestling matches a week on TV, and there's not a lot of good talkers. And if you start sticking out as a guy that can talk, people are going to say, "Hey, let me see this," and they're going to start watching your stuff on YouTube or clip it on whatever the website is to pull it up. So that would be my advice there. But if you get your interview skills in order with all the TV that's coming out right now, if you want to get over this in this culture.